So the big question is this: how can we as legal support professionals find the clients that we really want, all while running a business and still finding time to get people served? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name is Michael Reed, the podcast server, and I want to welcome you to Process Server Daily. You can listen to a new episode each and every Monday morning on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you like to listen. Share this podcast with your friends and colleagues, and please leave us a review if you like what we're doing here. Let's give a big shout out to today's sponsor, PSD University. They have a special offer for all of today's listeners at the end of today's episode. Don't miss out. Server Nation, welcome back to the show. Our guest today is a seasoned investigator with over a decade of experience in the field of criminal and civil investigation. Oliver's career to date has seen him policing some of the most remote communities in Australia and some of the biggest cities. His resilience and tenacity to achieve the best for his victims and clients is without a doubt his biggest priority. Ollie Lawrence, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Michael. How are you going? Hello to your listeners.
Well, we appreciate you being on the show, Ollie, and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in this industry.
Yeah, sure. So as you're aware, I live in Brisbane in Australia. I spent 11 and a half years as a police officer policing two separate states here in Australia. And after 11 years of serving in the government sector, I decided I wanted to explore a bit of a change and venture into the private sector. So I started by moving into a field in investigations overseas, where I was working for our federal government's offshore processing centre for the people that were arriving here illegally. I was investigating internal complaints within our offshore processing centres.
Wow.
And during that time, in the background was slowly building up my business, OJT Investigations Group here in Brisbane, which I really needed to have something going on the side in order for me to support and grow that operation. So over time, that built up to a point where I could leave my offshore investigations and focus primarily on the business. And for the past 2.5 years, I've been running OJT Investigations Group here in Brisbane, doing private investigations for clients right across the globe.
That's cool. That's really cool. So tell me a little bit more about the offshore investigations. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, so the offshore investigations was a fairly comprehensive role in that asylum seekers would make formal complaints in relation to the conduct of either staff or their facilities, or a complaint of any generic nature, really, generally directed towards our security service providers. As an ethical standards investigator, obviously we come in partially, invest the complaint, either substantiate it or unsubstantiate it, and then we provide recommendations as to a potential outcome to the matter. And the reports we are writing are obviously being read by fairly high-level politicians at a federal level, reviewing the complaints on a daily basis.
Wow, that's a really cool. I mean, that's in a whole nother world for me. I'm excited, and we'll talk some more off air. But I want to just go into our format here with the questions, and I'm sure we're going to draw out a lot of value bombs from you, a lot of knowledge that I'm sure you're going to bring to the listeners. Tell us, Ollie, there's a reason why you're on the show, because I saw you on social media. I saw you, some of the things that you were posting and things that you were doing in the private investigator group. And tell us, and we'd like to get into some of the good things that you're doing, but tell us your worst experience where, if you could, you'd have taken that job back, or maybe it's just your worst experience in the field.
You know, it's an interesting one, because there are probably several times when we get phone calls from clients or prospective clients who want us to take on work that, you know, we ethically don't want to take on, because we know that it's going to head us down into paths of grey areas of potential legality issues, be that a domestic violence restraining order, trying to find the spouse of a domestic violence restraining order. I'm very fortunate in the past 2 years to not have been exposed to experiences where I've regretted taking on a job that I felt I shouldn't have taken on. I think what's kind of, and I'm sure there will be an occasion in the future where I will have an incident where I will probably regret taking on a case. But I suppose my policing career has allowed me to very much vet. And when I say vet, I screen my clients quite strictly because I'm very cautious about the information we provide. My researchers and I, we skip trace people on a daily basis. That's what we do when locating people. And we get some extremely out there inquiries as to trying to locate certain individuals. I suppose that's the biggest frustration for me is people believe they can use our industry to their advantage in potentially negative acts against another. That's my biggest frustration with the industry, is that we can be used as that mechanism. So I'm very cautious about that. And like I say, I screen my clients very strictly and make sure we adhere to the protections of the people that we're looking for, because I believe we have a role in ensuring their safety and security as well.
Well, Ali, I'm glad you brought that up, because there's in California here and in the States, it's actually very hard to get access to the Department of Motor Vehicles information, particularly in California, because there was an investigator who used his access to that information, driver's information, and the guy used it for a nefarious purpose. I believe he went and ended up murdering his wife and lover. So yeah, you have a real responsibility when you're skip tracing, when you're doing an investigation, to be able to make sure whoever. Like sometimes I'll get people. This is my rule of thumb, Ali. I'll tell you, someone will send me jobs, and I do a lot of process serving work. That's mainly what I do. And so someone will send me a serve, and they'll want me to skip trace someone, and I'll say, send me the documents, and then I'll skip trace them. Because a lot of times you'll get people that are just like, my long lost boyfriend, no, we don't do that. What are the laws in the other countries? I don't want to miss that opportunity. Go ahead.
A classic scenario would be, I'll give you two scenarios I had in the past 24 hours of inquiries into my office. The first one being a young man who wanted to find a previous tattooist who had tattooed his arm but not completed the job. Now, that's a fairly peculiar scenario, because that quite often just gets done within the shop. You get tattooed, the guy who's doing, or the girl, you go back and they complete the job. Now, I said to the guy on the phone, I said, I'm more than happy to do this skip trace, but what I will do is I'll contact the guy when I find him and say, listen, you're looking for him because you want him to do further artwork. Is that okay? Now, there's an immediate pause. Now, if there's an immediate pause, someone's thinking about their answer and how they're going to reply to that because they feel uncomfortable. And for me, that's an immediate flag of something that we should be aware of, because what I look at then is if I provide this information, and like you said in that California example, if that individual then goes and commits a homicide, the first person they're going to hold accountable is the person that knew where they were and provided that information, because it's not hard to find that. So that is a scenario where I significantly say, listen, put it in an email and I'll have a look and I'll get back to you. But deep down, I know there's a gut feeling that tells me that something's not quite right and I won't be taking on that role. I have Michael, my ethos or my role, or what I do to vet, is I use what we call a self-test. Will it withstand scrutiny? Is it ethical? Is it lawful? And is it fair? And if I can't meet one of those criteria, or one of those criteria falls over, we don't do the job.
Can you repeat that for the listeners, those three criteria?
Sure. So it's the self-test. So the S stands for scrutiny. So what you're doing, will it withstand scrutiny from an external provider or someone that doesn't know what you're doing? Secondly, is it ethical? Is what you're doing right? Will it be brought into question? Could it potentially bring you before the courts? Is it something that is ethical? Thirdly, is it lawful? Is what you're doing illegal? Going to motor transport and providing documentation to someone who's got a domestic violence order against their loved one with a no contact condition. By providing that information, you're aiding and abetting the commission of that offence of the breach of the order. So it's not lawful. And then fourthly, is it fair? Is it fair that a mother running away from her husband because he's domestically violent should be found? I don't think so. So it's scrutiny, ethical, lawful, and fair. And if you can never meet one of those criteria, don't do it. The dollars are not worth it.
That is just so, that's it. Let's wrap it up. That was awesome. Now, is that something that you've just learned over the years, or is that something you're training?
No, that's come from, listen, a lot of what I've been molded from is from my policing days. That self-test is taught to police officers over here when they make their decisions, when they're interacting with the public. and when they're making decisions in relation to legislation, policy, and procedure. So the self-test is something that we should all do, and it's something I carry with me going forward from my experiences. And I think that's what makes me, hopefully, a better person and constantly looking to make improvements in myself professionally and privately, and whatever the case may be. But yeah, the self-test is a really, really important factor, and I would encourage anyone to adopt it, because I can certainly assure you, if you can meet those 4 tests, you will never be in an area where you question what you've done.
Ollie, what I get most from your story is that holding your services, what you're providing to a certain standard. You're providing a service. It's not, yes, you're getting paid money. Yes, you provide a service that you get paid money for, especially here in the States. It's all about, getting the volume coming in, but being able to hold that standard. And so if you always go look to the standard first and providing an excessive amount of value, you're never going to have a problem with the amount of money coming in, because people recognize that value and it's reciprocal. It'll come back to you.
No, I was just going to finish up by saying that I think clients and your customers and your customer base respect integrity, they respect ethics, and those that question your ethics and integrity because they want you to do something that they know they wouldn't be prepared to do is quite often a trait that you wouldn't want to be associated with. As a leader, I would never get my staff to go and do that, because at the end of the day, as leaders of businesses and as operations, we shouldn't be asking our staff to do things that we wouldn't ordinarily be prepared to do ourselves.
That's right.
So I think that's also vitally important.
That's good. It's good, Ollie. So that's what I take most from your story. What do you want Server Nation to take from your story, from your experiences?
I think, Server Nation, as process servers globally in America and Australia, Europe, wherever we may be, we all have the same role. We're all out there trying to do the same thing. I think it's important as process servers that we make sure what we're doing, we're productive. We're always looking for more work because we want to grow personal wealth. We want to be successful. We want to grow our organizations. But don't rush that process. Don't try and get to the letter Z before you've got through your A, B, C, and D, because there are steps to take. And those steps sometimes take a little bit longer. And sometimes you'll get pushback. Sometimes people say, no, I don't need your services. But keep trying, keep working, keep bucking at it, and you'll get there eventually and you'll be successful. That's
great. Ollie, tell me about your greatest experience. What is like your biggest win that you've had in the industry?
My biggest win to date, last year, my staff and I embarked on a 13-week operation investigating an extortion matter which came from the victim was in Hong Kong. The offender was here in Australia. We had a 13-week round-the-clock surveillance operation, covert surveillance operation, in which we were investigating this extortion worth $2.5 million. Some property had got into the hands of someone of our clients and was being extorted for that property. We were very successful in privately negotiating that matter. No money parted hands. We just investigated the matter so well in the background that we could criminally hold the individual responsible if we so wished to make a complaint to the police. We saved the client a phenomenal amount of money. It was a great result. And at the same token, we provided support to the offender post the operation, because I think it was, for us, we were dealing with a young, desperate man who'd found something he knew he could use to his own advantage. But what caused him to engage in that offending? So not only did we resolve the incident, post the operation, we supported him by providing him with some financial support to get him in the gym, get him back in routine, get him back employed, and get him back being a productive member of society. Coming from a policing background, I find sometimes that the courts are a bit of a revolving door. People sometimes can't get out of it. They go in, they come out, they go in, they come out, and they're forever in this cycle of the justice system. And I think it's important, if they don't have exposure to it and you think you can rehabilitate them, you do your utmost to do that. And that's what we did in that scenario. So not only did we win for the client, we also won for the offender, which I think is very rare. So for me, thus far, that is our biggest victory.
That's really cool. And so you can't, I'm sure you can't go into the specifics of the case, but what was the offense that he had?
So he was in possession of some material of our clients. He used the messenger service WhatsApp to communicate with the client these threats. The offence he committed was under the criminal code here in Australia of extortion, which has a circumstance of aggravation on the level of money that he was requesting, because that would have had a significant detrimental effect on the client. So extortion carries, from memory, a 14-year imprisonment offence. I may be slightly wrong, but it's around that. It's a very serious punishment for the offending. It was a fairly serious offence, and not one that he was aware of at the time of committing offending, because he was in this tunnel vision of just wanting this level of wealth and this money that he thought he might be able to get. But unfortunately for us, we were able to delay that for 13 weeks, and we had him under surveillance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 13 weeks. It's a massive operation. It was a good win.
I got to tell you, those are the ones that make the Christmases for the next 10 years quite nice.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, we like those ones. So tell me, Ollie, what are you working on right now that has you most excited?
I've got a couple of really good projects going at the moment. One of those is a IT security project. We're working with a company here in Brisbane, and we do a lot of vulnerability testing on IT systems. Cybercrime and the IT side of things is a massive developing industry. And cybercrime and espionage right around the globe, be it the Chinese, the Russians, the Americans. I think we see it with Facebook and Cambridge Analytica. All those types of cybersecurity issues are really coming to the fore. And I think as part of our professional development as professionals in the security industry, process serving otherwise, we should be looking at those areas to see whether we can grow our businesses there. So I'm moving in that field, and we've got a really good project at the moment helping some clients out with their security, both physical and IT related. So that's a really exciting project for us. It's new ground, but it's ground that we're really owning and really taking on. I've got some great team support, guys and girls around me who are very, very knowledgeable. And we also have some good, I represent a couple of clients that are currently incarcerated in our prisons. And we're currently working on a multi-million-dollar fraud committed against a guy who's currently in jail for quite some time. So there's a bit on the burner at the moment. It's exciting times.
That is really cool. So you might be able to tell me, Ollie, I heard that in comparison, everyone always talks about the United States and their Navy and how they have all their armed forces or, dwarf most of the other countries. And then I heard about the cyber, and I don't know the truth to that, but I heard that the cyber tech that's going on out there, that China has something like over 1 million people dedicated to cybersecurity compared to the U.S. that has maybe 100,000. I'm not qualified to speak on it, but do you know anything in regards to that? Because I know you worked for the government. Do you know the manpower behind the different countries and how that applies?
Listen, I'll be honest with you. That's probably something none of us will probably really know too much about. I think we would be naive to think that there is not significant funding in that area. I recently put a video out. There's over 4,000 cyberware attacks every day in the world. It costs the Australian economy $3 billion every year in loss of earnings and loss of financials from business interests across Australia. So just in Australia alone, it's a $1 billion industry, and it's certainly one that I think we are not catching up quick enough to. And I think other Western powers, other superpowers around the world, such as China, are certainly leading that front and using it to their advantage. Obviously, it's been demonstrated in the Russia probe into the manipulation of the US elections that there was significant influence used through Facebook to influence people's decisions on whether or not they should vote for Hillary Clinton or for Donald Trump. Now, that's significant in itself. You wouldn't really call that a cyber attack, but we're using the internet to manipulate people right across the world. Facebook has a massive following. But right now, we see the fallout from those investigations and from Cambridge Analytica and the likes, and how that's affecting Mark Zuckerberg's company. Share prices diving from an individual, I think, who thought his company was Teflon, is really starting to be held accountable for what they do as an organization in protecting us as users of Facebook and what our information is used for and where it goes. So I think back to your original question, it would be naivous not to think that in the States, in the UK, throughout Europe, China, and Australia, that there aren't significant investments being made into cyber-related crime, foiling that crime, and preventing the the attacks from outside sources.
Yeah, that's good. Those are some really good. It's cool to talk to someone that has the insight into the different cybersecurity. All that stuff amazes me. I'm really big into automation. That's kind of my thing that I'm nerding out on right now. It's like if I could take the systems and the data entry and all this stuff and just automate it, how much money could I save? And so, but it's cool. It's in the techie realm. The whole cyber part of things is really interesting to me. And I want to stay in touch with you as we go here, and I want to learn more, if you're open to it. But.
Sure. Yeah, mate.
Okay, Server Nation, Ollie has been dropping some major value bombs on us today, from the cybersecurity and the different things that he's working on. But prepare yourself, because we're headed into the rapid fire round right after a word from our sponsors. Our sponsor today is one of my own making. PSD University started when I realized there was a void in online training for the legal industry across the country. As I interviewed some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the country, I found that many of them were more than willing to share this knowledge with others. A foundational principle of PSD University is building a strong network. Using the mastermind principle, we have taken networking to the next level. Right now, you can sign up for a 30-day free trial of the PSD Mastermind group. After that, it's just $39.95 a month. You and other legal professionals from all over the country can collaborate to grow your network and knowledge. We meet every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I hope to see you there. That's psduniversity.com. Okay, welcome back to the show. Ollie, are you ready for the rapid fire round?
I'm ready, Michael. Fire away.
What is your favorite skip trace tactic?
Facebook. Facebook is phenomenal for skip tracing. Sometimes I use my investigative programs that we have here in Australia, and as much as I pay a fortune to have those memberships, Facebook is my biggest tactic in finding people. People really do not lock down their accounts, and they put far too much on Facebook, leave things far too open, and allow us, even if I have to go through family members, it's a fantastic tool. And like I explained earlier, I think it's going to take some while for people to catch up on that.
That's great. What's your favorite tool for defense?
Oh, in what regard for defense?
So usually this is in regards to serving papers and going to the door, but in your field, it might be something more like, yeah.
Okay. My greatest tactic for defense is my ability to talk with people. And I think if you can talk to someone without patronizing them and making them feel small and inadequate and putting yourself in a place of power, you'll always be safe. This tactical option of talking is the greatest tactical option one will ever have.
That's awesome. Ollie, what book would you recommend?
I've got it beside me here, Michael. I bought this online some time ago. We do a lot of due diligence checks and background checks. This is an open source intelligence techniques book. Everything you need to know on researching individuals, companies, and businesses right across the globe. I cannot underestimate, if you're wanting to explore your business in open source intelligence checks, which is what I do, this book is a fantastic read. It's very, very educational. It's by Michael Bazzell, and it's resources for searching and analyzing online information. And it's just full of, before I came into this industry, when I was a police officer, I used Google to tell me the time in a different country. I used Google to tell me what my shares were doing. And now I use Google as such an investigative ally in just the way I type into that search bar and search fields that I didn't know of. It's phenomenal, it's incredible. And, Google face recognition, incredible. It's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but the technology is great. We just got to learn how to use it.
Yeah, Google is such a powerful tool. And so if you understand, I remember when I first learned about putting quotes around, 2 or 3 words or a string of words, and thought, wow, I found exactly what I was looking for in just a matter of seconds.
Yeah, exactly right.
Ollie, what would you do if you woke up tomorrow with all of the same skills, knowledge, but you didn't know anybody and only had $100, a smartphone, a car, and that book that you just showed me? How would you regrow your business?
How would I regrow my business? Well, I would use social media free to allow me to quickly get my name out there. And I would probably use the $100 to letter drop every solicitor in Australia and to try and generate some revenue that way, hopefully cheap paper. And I would ensure, if I only had $100, that my family were fed. They're a priority in all our lives. And in growing my business, I would probably just keep marketing very, very cheap. Marketing is phenomenally expensive for me. There would be marketing.
That's awesome, Ollie. So tell me more about this. I know this is a cultural thing, so forgive me, but you said letter draw. Do you mean write a letter?
Yes, I do a letter drop. So basically I would draft up a flyer or a letter to a solicitor, barrister, or an attorney, as I think as you call them over there. I would send them out. And that's what we do that. We send them out regularly to people offering our services. I have a concept here with my business. I do a no find, no fee. If I don't find someone, I don't charge them for it. That's quite a big draw card to people, because you can invest quite a bit of time in skip tracing. Some people say it's too risky. Some people say it's not cost effective. But for me, it gets someone in the door and it allows me to have a conversation with them. So if I do no find, no fee, I might spend a little bit more than what I'm earning, but what's behind that? What investigations might I get behind that, which can generate me more revenue and more income?
Yeah, I agree with you, Ollie. And the funny thing is once you go down that rabbit hole, you start to realize that there's not too many cases in which you can't find the person. Get that homeless guy who living under a bridge. And even then, sometimes you still find that guy. You go to his last known address and they say, yeah, he's over there under that bridge on 5th Street. And you end up finding him anyway.
Exactly. I totally agree.
So, Ollie, what is the greatest advice you've ever received?
The greatest advice I've ever received was from a superintendent when I was going through the police academy, who said, if you look good, you feel good, you'll be professional. So look good, feel good, be professional. And, I watched a video the other day. I'm quite big into these motivational videos that I see online. Some people say they're a little bit corny, but I think that there's, some of them are said by some great, great leaders within our world. Now, this was by the former United States Marine Corps colonel, I believe, and I'll get his name in a second. But one of the many things you have to do in the morning when you get up is you make your bed. Because if you make your bed and if you go out and you have a really, really bad day, you'll come home, your bed will be made, and you know that you can get in that made bed and tomorrow is a new day. Getting the small things right leads, and completing that first task leads to another task getting completed, to a series of tasks being completed. So I think it's really important that we work on the small things in our private lives, which then automatically affect our professional lives and how we operate on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's a part of my faith where we say, I think that's spot on, Ollie. We say through small and simple things are great things are brought to pass. And, I think that is so powerful in so many aspects of our life, whether it's our relationships or, as a father, in our business, even more so. So, well, Ollie, this has been great. What is your parting piece of advice for Server Nation?
My parting piece of advice to anyone out there, either wanting to get into the industry, is in the industry, or is going quite well. Sometimes you can get stuck in a bit of a rut and just be living and working for the sake of earning and not finding. You got to make sure what you're doing is fulfilling. And if it's not fulfilling you and you're not enjoying it, you're not doing it well. So I always look for greater opportunities outside of what you're doing within your industry. Try and look at different areas that you don't know too much about, so you can constantly learn and evolve with your business. And I think it's important to always keep your marketing fresh and never stop learning. Someone says, I can skip trace. It's very, very easy. It's not. It's a challenge. It's something that we all are constantly learning on how to do. There's always new software coming out for us to assist us. So I think it's all about staying fresh, enjoying what you do, challenge yourself, and always have that, sometimes take some risks. The greatest thing is just taking some risks, and sometimes you won't fail, but failures is not because you're no good. Failures is recognizing something that you can learn from and do better next time. So I try and live by the things, and I must reflect on the self-test. I think that's really, really important. If you can run with the self-test and challenge yourself on scrutiny, ethical, lawful, and fair, you'll be fine.
Well, Server Nation, Ollie has been dropping some major value bombs on us today. So, Ollie, I want to personally thank you for being on the show. What is the best way that we can connect with you? And then we'll say goodbye.
Sure. Well, I have a LinkedIn profile, Oliver Lawrence. I'm on Facebook, OJT Investigations Group. My website, I have offices in Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney and the Gold Coast, and we're launching in London later on this year in Mayfair. So you can get us at www.ojtinvestigationsgroup.com.au, or later in the year it'll be www.ojtinvestigationsgroup.co.uk. So fingers crossed on that one. That's a big risk for me, but I'm dipping my toe into the British waters and seeing how I go.
Going back to your roots.
Yeah.
That's great, Ollie. Well, I've been impressed with your story, and I'm excited to share it with the world.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on.
So until next time, Server Nation, you've been served up some awesomeness by Mighty Mike, the podcast server, and Ollie
Lawrence from OJT Investigations Group.
Stay safe out there. Server Nation, I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did. Don't forget to visit psduniversity.com and claim your 30-day free trial of the PSD Mastermind membership. That's psduniversity.com. Thank you so much for listening today, and please don't forget to share this episode with your friends and family. And if you like what we're doing, go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review. Until next time, Server Nation, stay safe out there.